Yeah, overall, I think you're in a great position. I think the retirement match is incredible. And the fact that you made the sacrifice to move home to get rid of the credit card debts and then completely max out your retirement is fantastic. I mean, that will really change your financial trajectory the rest of your life. Like those few years, like absolutely change your financial trajectory. Hello, and welcome to Financials Podcast Future Rich. My name is Barbara Ginty, and I am a CFP, which is a certified financial planner. And I am here with my first guest of the season, Annie. Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Thank you for joining us. We're doing things a little different this season, so we asked people to fill out some information before they come on the show, just to make it a little more efficient. So I have here that you are based in Orlando, Florida. You're single. You are a data analyst, and you are making approximately 113,000. How old are you? I think we need to add that to our form.
I'm 33.
You're 33. Okay, great. Because I was looking at everything and I was like, you mentioned wanting to be work optional at 55, but then I was like, I wonder how old she is.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you are 33 years old. Okay, so you want to tell our listeners you're going through a little bit of a transition. So you don't really have many bills now. You're gonna start to have bills. It's a very interesting work 401k. It's incredible. I had to read that twice. So you want to kind of fill our listeners in on where you currently are and then what's happening coming up?
Sure. So I do currently live in PA. And about 3 years ago, I moved back in with my parents because I did have some credit card debt. And so I went to pay that off. And then while I was here, I was able to maximize all of my retirement accounts and then also start saving additional money. And now I am moving out. But since I am a data analyst and I work remotely, I am moving to a different state. So I'm moving to Orlando, Florida, actually at the end of this month. So
Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about that wasn't in your intake form. So you decided to move back in to get control of credit card debt. That's something that we hear a lot on the podcast. And usually what happens, and I'm curious what your experience has been, but usually it's a very slippery slope. And then once you realize you're in over your head with the credit cards, it takes a pretty radical move to get out of
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I guess when I first so to backtrack a while, when I first got out of college, I was not making a lot of money and I was living in the city of Philadelphia and it I kind of racked up debt at that time. I was 23 in the city and then it kind of just kept going and I did get like a new job that like doubled my pay, but it kind of stayed with me. And so at some point it was like, all right, when I turned 30, I was like, I need to make financial changes. And I'm like, I'm going to like take that step. And so it kind of coincided with working remotely. So that's why I was able to kind of like make that drastic change and move back home and cut a lot of my expenses and then put more of it towards my credit cards that I paid off really fast. So now I don't keep a balance on them. I just pay them off.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How much did you end up having in credit card debt before you got it?
I had about probably like 10,000.
Okay. That's great. It's nice to be free of that, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
Okay, great. And so you've made a lot of progress. So you moved back home. So you're in Pennsylvania now, moving to, so you get to pick basically wherever you want to live, right? Since
Yeah.
you're remote. That's great. And you have quite a bit saved in retirement. And how long have you been with the company you're with?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I have down that you have in your 401k $315,000, which is
Yeah.
amazing. 30,000 saved in a high yield savings account, and then 17,000 in your your health savings account, and then $28,000 in your Roth IRA, and then 6,000 in a taxable brokerage account. And the only outstanding debt you have currently is 5,000 in student loans.
Yes. Correct.
When do the student loans get paid off? Like, what does it say when you log into your portal?
I think in 2 years.
In 2 years.
They're not really a priority for me. And why is because so my company gives me $100 a month to pay them, and all of my interest rates are below 3%. So it's kind of like one of those things that I'm trying to maximize that benefit from the company, and then I only
Mhm.
pay like a small amount. So each month, I think I pay like $159 to my student loans, and then they pay 100. But my interest rates are like my interest
So
payments
low.
are pretty low. So I'm like, I might pay them off now just because of moving, but I've just kind of been maintaining them.
Maintaining them. Yeah, because that was gonna be a question I had for you because it's the only debt you have and you have enough money to pay them off.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, I
you
do.
could pay them off, and probably where interest rates are right now with your high yield savings, we're probably getting closer to where it's a neutral, right? Where because like your high yield savings is probably like 3.5.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and your interest rates on your student loans are below. So, but as you say, it's not a lot. You're getting the money from your company towards it, so you could pay them off if you want, but you also can continue to maintain it, especially if it's going to be done in 2 years.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my questions. If it just would make more financial sense for just me to just, since I do have the money, just to kind of like pay them off. Like,
What are your expenses for moving? Because moving's expensive, especially because you're moving
yes.
far. Right. I mean, you could be you're driving, but
No,
I
no.
would.
I hired I rented like the pod storage, so like container storage, and so we're gonna be shipping that down. I'm shipping that down. So that's about for all of that, like 2,000. I'm hiring movers, which is probably around $500 because I'm doing it just from down in Florida, from like the facility to the apartment. I probably around gonna say like around like maybe $5,000.
There's
And then I already paid like the security deposit and my prorated rent, but my rent doesn't start until I guess technically March, but um that was around $1,000.
okay. So what you'd have to take out of savings now is 5,000
Yes.
for everything going forward. Okay, and so then if you pay off the student loans, it's another five. So that would bring your high yield savings down from 30 to 20.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then your upcoming expenses, right? So you haven't really had many bills at home, which is fantastic. But going forward, you are going to have
Yes.
bills. So you want to
Yes.
kind of run us through that?
Um, yeah, so my rent is going to be about 2,500. You have to pay all utilities. I'm thinking around 200, but um I'm not
Plan
sure.
for a little more just in
More,
case.
okay.
Like, pretend you're living alone, so everything, so like not splitting. Are you living with anyone? Are you living by
No,
yourself?
it's I'll be by myself. Yeah.
Okay, I plan for a little more. It's always better to over budget, I think. So why don't we say 400? Because you're gonna have air conditioning, I would assume would be one of your big bills in the summer. And then internet, you work from home, you're gonna have good internet
Yep.
package. You can't cheap out on the internet. So, and then that might be high, but better to shoot high, I think. Okay, so rent, utilities. You mentioned getting a car.
Yeah. So when I was at this company before, when I first started, I was a sales rep and I had a company car. So I never really, I had a personal car and I had gotten rid of it 8 years ago. And so when I left and I switched to this new role, I could turn the car in and get money for it. But that was a couple years ago. So I don't own a car because I was living in Philly and then I moved back. And so I never needed one. So
Hmm.
I will need one soon.
Okay, so are you thinking about leasing, buying, and then having a car payment?
Leasing, I will have a car payment. Yeah. I don't plan on being in Florida for a long period, probably just like a couple years. So I didn't make much sense, I think, to buy one to have to then transport it back if I'm gonna move back to like a city where I don't need a car again.
Yes, because I feel like people are listening and being like, leasing's terrible. I lease. You know, like my husband owns and I lease. My husband drives a ton of miles. It makes more sense financially for him to own. I do not drive a ton. I know nothing about cars. And I lease and I always tell it's like depends on what's happening in your life, what makes better financial sense. So yes, if you're planning on moving back to a city at some point, you will not need a car and then you have to sell the car.
Yeah.
So I think definitely lease.
And I got very, spoiled having a company car because I just dropped it off and they fixed everything, and I know nothing about cars, and I do not drive too much, because where I'm moving to in Orlando, I made sure that I was in a place that everything was walkable, so, like, the grocery store is a block away, there's a bunch of different restaurants, so driving is more of just some things are further, so
Yeah,
that's why.
you want to have access, but you're not going to use it. So that's also the leases can get expensive because they always want you to do more miles.
Yeah.
When you look at the leases, if you know you're not going to be driving a lot, I do like the minimum lease. I think mine's 10,000 and they're always like, "That's not enough." And I'm like, "I don't I work from home half the year. I don't drive. I know when I do drive, I'm gonna go like the farthest is 9 miles." So don't let them push you into a higher mileage lease because they don't give you the money back.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So you do 12,000, 15,000 a year and you only drive 8. They don't give you the difference back for the cost. If you go over, you will pay and it is expensive, but let's say if the difference is like 5,000 miles a year, you can have them quote you both. But if you're only going to be like, you'll and monitor it, right? So then maybe you can say no road trip because I'm about to turn in my lease. So I would keep an eye on that. Okay, so we're going to have that cost as well then. Okay, perfect. And have you looked at leases? Do you have a ballpark on what you're
I started
budgeting?
to, but I'm assuming around a lease is like around 4 to 500. I did start looking at certain before, but I know it's like different types of cars and the models. Like it doesn't need to be like the 2026 model, but
Yeah, I would say whatever you get a deal on, especially because
okay.
you're not really going to be driving
Yeah.
a lot. And it's more of access for you, like so things that are outside of your walking zone. So I would go for what is economical because it's not like you're gonna be spending 2 hours a day commuting on a highway.
No.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And then what is your I didn't ask this on the intake form, but your gross is 113. What are you netting? And I know it'll change a little from Pennsylvania to Florida. They'll adjust your from state withholding it. But what are you netting now on your payroll?
I actually not sure because I have a lot of deductions on it. Let me see. I think I have it somewhere.
And we'll talk about the deduction. So are you currently at 5% or 10% into your 401k?
I am going to change it to 5%. I'm currently at 23. I need to lower it.
We're at 23.
So, since I haven't moved yet, but I'm going to change it in
Okay, because yeah, in intake form you said
February.
5 or 10, so I thought maybe I wasn't sure. Oh my gosh, you've been doing 23.
Yes. So I
No, it's not it.
maxed out my Roth IRA, for what it was in 2025, the 7,000, and then my HSA, my company does $1,000 in wellness incentives, and so I do the whatever it was, I forget. It's like an odd number, like 3,100. And then I was able to put the rest into my 401k. I did 23. I did 15% in because we have a couple of options into a pre-tax 401k, and then I did 9% into a Roth 401k.
Okay, great. And so for the listeners, you get 3% match, and then you get a 15%, you called it a supplemental.
It's an interesting breakdown. So they do a 3% match and that goes in monthly into or with every paycheck, the same as what mine does. And then they do like a two like supplemental. And so it's an additional 5% that they give. And so that's essentially to all of us that don't have pensions. They stopped pensions like 15, 20 years ago. And so everyone else gets an additional 5%. And then the whole company, we all get it's between 8 to 12% that we get a drop in, when they do it once a year, and average is about 10%. That's based off of how well, like, the company does.
Okay. So is that more of a profit share?
Yes, yeah, it's deferred profit sharing.
Okay, perfect. So based on the math I ran, if you do 5% of your salary at 113, you get a match of 3% on that, right? And that's going so we can talk about how to split it, but that 5% of your salary is a little over 5,600, your match is like 3,300, and then that additional 15% through the course of the year, which we'll just say is supplemental. It sounds like it's a combination of a couple types of contributions. That comes close to 17,000, so your total contribution for the year would be approximately 26,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
It
It's
is, it's a
amazing.
nice it's a nice, benefit we have.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic, especially because you mentioned wanting to be work optional at 55. Like, putting so much money away where it's not all your money is amazing.
And that's one of the questions I kinda had because I'm doing a major, I guess, life shift, and so, for me, it was a very hard decision of I've been putting so much money away, and I know I have this goal of being at 55 wanting to be, like, work optional, and so with me then balancing out of, like, okay, I do work from home, I'm paying higher in rent, but that's because of, like, it meets kind of like the lifestyle I want now versus being able to have the lifestyle in the future, like, if I'm balancing correctly how I want to do it, and, like, even with the company match and their supplemental and then what I do, like, is that gonna be enough to make me at 55 work optional?
There's a lot of factors that we have to factor in between 33 and 55, right? And things will probably change. So, what I like to do is just to ballpark what you're going to have based on what you currently have. And the easy way to do that is just say to use the compounding of interest of 7.2, right? And then where will your money be at 55? I do think that you bring up an important question of, since so much, because all of your supplemental, we're just going to aggregate it, say it's profit sharing, non-contributory, is all pre-tax, right?
Yes, correct.
And is there a vesting? I mean, I think we would have met the vesting schedule. You've been there 8 years.
Yeah, you're vested right away.
Dream. Very rare. Very rare. So with all of that and putting in that much money, I think you'll have, you're at 300 now. So even without adding, you'd be at 610 years at 43. You'll be at more because then you're adding around 26,000 over the next is another 260. You'll probably be somewhere closer, just like not even using a calculator, like 900 at 43, give or take with retirement. Not aggregate, not doing breakdown between Roth and pre-tax, but just like if you stay on this course, everything stays the same. We have average market performance. If we put it in a financial calculator, it'd probably be higher, but let's just say 900. And then by the time you're 53, I would assume you'd be like 1.8 more if we ran it out even farther. Because 26,000 a year, if you did that for 20 years, right? Without any return on that, that's still a ton of money that you're saving. And then you have the compounding of interest going with you. Because yeah, 26. Them putting so much money away, I would like never leave, I think. Do people never leave that company?
Not really. If we call it the golden handcuffs, I
Yeah.
think our average tenure is, like, 23 years.
Yes. Just in 20 years, it's over 500,000 that'll go into that retirement account, like, without it making a dollar, like, if you just put it in cash,
Yeah, that would be that's great.
which is great. So, I don't think you'll have a problem by the time you get to 53. I think you're gonna have, like, you probably have way more than 2,000,000, but let's say 2,000,000 to be very conservative. That'll generate 80,000 a year in income if you use 4% as a distribution. There's some talk about at 55, how does that work? How long? Your biggest issue at 55 is really gonna be health insurance, probably.
Yes, yeah.
Health insurance isn't cheap.
No.
So that will kind of blow the budget a bit. Like if your rent's 2,500 and then your health insurance is 1,200, it really increases your expenses significantly. So I think the key to being work optional at 55 is going to be continuing. If you say this company, they're just giving you so much money. They're giving you like 20,000, which is like just a high percentage of your overall, salary that they put toward your retirement. I think that will be key, right, to boosting your retirement and allowing you the flexibility outside of retirement to save in other buckets so that you are more prepared for work optional. And as you probably heard me talk about on the podcast, I like to think about when you do the work optional or fire or whatever what's the other one called? There's like fire,
Like Coast Fire and
post fire. Yeah, there's all different names. I feel like there's Reddit posts and I'm not, I'm in my day job most of the
yeah,
time. So I'm not speaking on every acronym, but what I always like to say to people is you never want to jeopardize your permanent retirement. And permanent retirement I will call old age retirement.
okay.
Right. So when you're old, because you don't want to have to go back to work. You don't want to like have done the work optional at 55 and then something goes awry at 70. That's not what we
Yeah,
want.
I don't
You
wanna go
always
back.
want to protect your like your future old age self.
Okay, yeah,
Take care of the old lady Annie. You want to make sure she's okay because she's just going to be more vulnerable than 55-year-old Annie.
yeah, okay.
So I think that this job that your career you currently have with this retirement allows you a lot of flexibility outside of retirement. So even by doing 5%, you're still putting a ton of money away proportionally and you have time. So you have two big factors. You're putting a lot away and you have a lot of time before 55. And so I would say if you can swing it, we just have to look at these expenses because your expenses are going to change so dramatically. I don't know if you can swing the Roth and then the Roth outside.
Okay.
So it just depends on your preference because you also mentioned wanting to save for a house, which is
Yes, but I will be getting help with that. So my parents are like helped my sister, so they're planning on giving each of us like money for a down payment of like $50,000 as like a gift.
wow, so like a lot of money.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then you probably don't have to save quite as much as I was anticipating. Okay, so that's important to know because what I was going to say is by doing the pre-tax, it would give you more money after, in your paycheck to save in the non-retirement bucket for the down payment. But I don't know where you're looking to buy or when you want to buy, but I don't know. Are you looking in Pennsylvania? Looking
Yeah, I would look at moving back to Philadelphia and buying there.
okay, but in the city you would need more than 50 probably.
Most likely, but,
But at the
it would be like a
outskirts,
condo. But yeah, on the
yeah,
outs like, if it's in the city, it would be, like, more of a condo, like whereas, yeah, if it would be on the outskirts, it would be okay.
it would be okay. I mean, I love the idea of you putting more money towards Roth. I just think it's going to be a balancing act between like how much do you want to supplement that $50,000, right?
Yes.
You have
Okay.
to. And so here's what I always say to people because there's no perfect roadmap, right? Because I don't know what the condo is gonna cost, and I don't know if the condo's in, 3 years or 5 years, right? So there's a lot of variation. What I always tell people is you can make a plan for right now and say, "Okay, right now, I'm just gonna really focus on the Roth for this year or next year." And then as you get closer to that house goal, you could say, "Okay, I'm gonna switch now to pre-tax for the next 2 to 3 years because I've looked at the condos. I actually know the price point is closer to, we'll just say, 1,000, so I really need 100 for the down payment, so I need to start saving." And that's fine. There's nothing wrong when you front load your retirement as you have been. But we're gonna reevaluate, and now this house condo goal is forefront, and so it's gonna be prioritized over the Roth for the next few years. You can always go back.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like that's where people get stuck. They think once they make a change, they can't go back. But you can.
Yeah.
You know? You can say for 3 years, I wanna maximize what I'm taking home in my paycheck by using pre-tax contributions until I get to where I need to be for the condo fund, and then once I'm there, I'll switch back to Roth. That's fine because 'Cause you're hitting every bucket right now, right? You have, like, the Roth, you have the pre-tax, and then you have your fully funded emergency fund, and then you also have an investment account.
Yes. Yeah, my goal with the investment account was to, either, like, bridge the gap between, like, 55 and, till I'm fully retired kind of thing to pay for health insurance or any of those expenses. I know I've researched there's different ways to, like, you can take money out of either the Roth IRA or your, like, 401k with, like, different distributions. That's it started with that, and then also, like, the other only large expense would be, like, okay, eventually maybe buying a house or a condo, and so that's kind of like it kinda started, but it's, like, minimal funds I've been putting into it, but kind of just to help it, like, start to grow, but I was, like, prioritizing, like, retirement accounts for right now too.
100% prioritize retirement because it's the permanent
Okay.
solution, and then you can because you're forming very good habits, which I don't think are talked about enough. Having financial discipline,
Yeah.
control really leads to a lot more success than anything else, right? Because you then are in control of the money and how it's being dictated versus most people, and we see this unfortunately on the podcast, they don't know where the money's going. At the end of the month, there's just not enough money and they can't always articulate what's happening.
Yeah.
And I know the second we start the conversation that they're gonna be out of money. Like the second we start talking, you can just tell they have no idea what's coming in, what's going out, and why it's not working. So you don't have that problem. So you have all the control, right? Like you're making sound decisions. And so, yes, you can definitely use from 55 to let's say 65 when you're Medicare eligible, the non retirement, and that is very tax efficient. It would also allow you then to convert some of the pre tax money to Roth over that 10-year time frame while you're living on or living in what I would call an artificially lower bracket, right? Because pre-tax money, so your retirement monies are gonna come out taxed at ordinary income. Non-retirement account, that your investment account, is gonna be taxed most likely at capital gains, it's long-term holdings, which is a more favorable tax bracket. And so therefore you can kind of play with maybe taking the IRA money that would be ordinary income and moving bits of it, not all of it, but pieces of it over 10 years and paying at a lower ordinary income rate than you would in the future in retirement.
Okay.
So it can move to Roth at that point. So I do like the idea of doing that longer term. I think for the next like maybe 10 years, 8 years, with the goal of buying a condo and some other things happening in your life, I would prioritize the retirement. So then you could always switch and say, I'm not going to do as much. I'll do the three, maybe I'll tone it down to 3%, get my 3% match, get the 15%. And then everything extra is going to go in this brokerage account to fund the 55 to 65. I've already done the house, right? Like I have my condo. And so then you can just kind of refine it as you get a little closer to those goalposts.
Gotcha. Okay.
But for today, so with expenses, so you're netting it. Do you have an approximate where you're netting after your deductions? But you're currently at 23%, you said? You haven't switched it, right?
Not switched it yet. Let's see. I think I have kind of what my deductions are listed out. I don't think I've ever like calculated them. I think what I'm bringing with all my deductions that I've been doing for like the past year, which I'll have to change, what's been going into my bank account is I think about like I get paid twice a month, so about $4,000, I think.
So that'll go up when you switch the 401k.
Yeah, this is yeah, and that's including basically, like, all of the taxes coming out, my, insurance like, health insurance,
Insurance.
my, 401k contributions that are at the 23%, and then I also, that pulls out my Roth IRA as well, and then my
Oh,
HS.
it does.
Yeah, yeah, so
Your Roth IRA comes out of your payroll or it just auto comes out of your account?
it auto comes on my so, like, we can set it up that you can send it to different accounts, and
Oh,
so
so
they
you're sending your
automatically send it,
payroll. Got it. Okay.
so I don't see it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, great. So you have 4,000 left over after all of that.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, so I would anticipate that so you're doing 23% on the 401k, right? So you're doing this is amazing. 20 you're setting a high bar for all the guests this year. So you yourself are doing 26,000 approximately into the
yeah,
401k.
because I always I end up paying over, and so my last paycheck of the year, it comes back. Like,
Yeah, because
parts of
you went too high. Yeah,
yes,
'cause
yeah,
you're like, you hit the IRS limits. Okay, so you'll drop that down to about 6,000,
yes.
which is a difference of we'll just round 20,000. So and you get paid how many times? 24 times a year? Is it
Yeah, I get paid twice a month. We get paid yeah, I get paid twice a month.
like the 1st and 15th or something?
The 12th and twice a month, but yeah,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. So you should probably get depend with taxes and stuff a little bit, like at least I would say like another 1,500 back in your paycheck,
Okay.
just from the 401k change. So we'll just even if we said you have 5,200 a month, and that would be leaving right the Roth the same, right? So that's auto
Yes.
funding your Roth. Okay. So let's just say 5,200. It'll probably be a little, hopefully a little higher
Uh, I increased it for this year since it went up, so I think I do 312 a paycheck.
to get because it went up to 7,500.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I think I'm a little low in the ballpark, but let's say 5,200. You're gonna rent if 2,500. We'll say utilities are for. I'm gonna lowball. We'll hopefully average out between utilities and car. Car 400, and then any other big expenses.
No, that I think just, like, car insurance,
Yeah, gas, food.
yeah, food, my phone, they, give us money for a phone, so I don't pay for that.
I feel like this would be an advertisement for your company. We won't name them, but I feel like if people could ask, they'd be like, "Where do you work?"
Yeah.
So that'll let's say that's 3,500. So you're not gonna have as much wiggle room in your budget with this, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do realize I've had a lot of, like, spending power, I guess you could say, that even with me saving a lot, I've had a lot more room to be able to do different things, like, I've traveled and done different things, and I realize that's probably not gonna be the case as much anymore.
Yeah, I think you're definitely gonna have a tighter budget. So I'd be curious to see once you get down to Orlando, like what your cost of living is, right, in a new city. with adjusting the 401k down to 5%. What I would say is if it's feeling really tight, you could do the 5% as pre-tax because you're also doing the Roth outside of work. If you want it to have more spending power and save more towards the investment account that you have,
Yeah. Okay.
it just gives you more, it makes the dollar stretch. And it's not to say that you don't convert those traditional dollars if you do work optional at 55. You just keep that in your back pocket. And that's just a trade-off. You're saying, I want to live down in Florida. I want to give that a whirl. It's going to be more expensive, and I'm okay with that. So now I'm not going to do as much into the Roth. I'm going to do more pre-tax. You're still saving the same percentage. Pre-tax gives you more back in your paycheck.
Okay. I guess thinking about it then, is it still like max out my HSA, max out my Roth IRA, and then just do the 5% and just do the pre-tax 401k then? Okay.
That's what I would do. I think it's gonna get a little tight, like, if you wanna
Gotcha.
cook dinner and, like,
Yeah.
and save, you know? Because I think
Okay.
it has to be a balance. You have a lot saved. You've done a really good job. You've gotten almost all your debt paid off. I'm not as worried about the student loans.
Yeah. Okay.
Just decide what you're comfortable with because the interest rates are really low and you can pay them off if you choose to. I think if I were in your shoes, I'd wait to see what the new budget is in Florida.
Yeah. That's kind of I was holding off, like, between, like, moving just because that was more of a, like, a variable cost of, like, how much is everything going to cost,
Like, 'cause you don't
and
really know
so
what the utilities are gonna be like. You don't know exactly what your paycheck's gonna be because 'cause you're not gonna have state tax anymore, but and you don't know what groceries you don't really know a lot of the costs, so I think I would hold off just so you have a better idea of what your monthly expenses are gonna be and what your monthly income is, and then make that decision.
okay, and, I mean, I aim to have my emergency fund around 15,000, because I do get a 32-week severance, so if anything ever happened with the company, like, I'm at least covered for a little over 6 months. So that's why I keep it, like, at, like, a 3 months, um, like, just to extend it just in case.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think especially with a transition like this, like, where, when you lease a car, they want you to put money down, right? So then, like, that could come out of there. So I always think it's better to have extra in your emergency fund.
Okay.
Yeah, it never hurts.
Okay.
I've never had anyone be like, "Shoot, I have extra money." Never happened. It just gives you more bandwidth, and, like, especially if the expenses come in really high and you're like, "But I really did wanna take a vacation," and then you just pay yourself back over just gives you so much more optionality. Because then you're not, because obviously we don't wanna use credit card. We don't
Yes.
wanna get in
Yeah.
that. You could say, "I can budget for the vacation, but I wanna go in the fall, but I can probably pay myself back over 12 months. I'm gonna put myself on a payment plan." Then you could borrow from yourself if you needed to, right? Because you
Okay.
have the excess there.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you just have to pay yourself back. But yeah, you
Yeah.
could then you're not putting it on a credit card. You're borrowing from yourself with no interest, and then you put it back. So if you say I'm going to borrow 1,800 or 2,000, and then I'll give myself, a few months to pay that back when I get back. But yeah, overall, I think you're in a great position. I think the retirement match is incredible, and the fact that you made the sacrifice to move home to get rid of the credit card debts, and then completely max out your retirement is fantastic. I mean, that will really change your financial trajectory the rest of your life. Like, those few years, like, absolutely change your financial trajectory.
Okay. Yeah. That was my goal was to, like, I think everything I've seen on, like, social media or research, it's, like, trying to build it up now because then it has time to grow.
Yeah, you either need a lot of time or a lot of money. You did both, which is like a superpower to, like, be able to do that and then have the great benefit that you were maxing it out and the company is putting in a ton of money. So doing both, like, nobody would get you. So normally what I say to people is you want to make these sacrifices when you're in your 20s and early 30s because you set yourself up for financial success when you're older, when there are going to naturally be more expenses when you're older. Like, you get married, you have kids, you need to help your parents. There's just all these other obligations that pop up later in life statistically. That, pets get sick, the stuff just gets more expensive than usually. In your 20s, you just don't have a lot of money, but there also aren't usually as big of, if you got married at 21, yes, you might have big expenses. But for our average podcast listener, they have less obligation and responsibilities earlier, they have less money. But it's like if you can get your money in the retirement then, it gives you that flexibility later in life to say, "Okay, I'm toning down my retirement because I really put a ton of money." And then you did both. You put a ton of money and you have a ton of time.
Yeah.
Just great.
Yeah, when I first started with this company too, I was able to do like 15%. So I had done that for a long time and then I raised it to 20. But I didn't have like the Roth IRA and a couple other options. I wasn't doing that at the time. And then now is when I like was maxing out all of those. I started a couple years ago.
Yeah, I love it. I did it. And most of the time, sometimes I get pushback on it, you know? I'm like, the way I looked at it was, I'm already drinking like 2 buck chuck and looking for a happy hour that has like some sort of
Yeah.
like free peanuts or some sort of $5 food for dinner. So I might as well just be putting everything towards retirement because like it's not the amount that I would get back in my paycheck wasn't going to change my life.
Yeah.
You know, it'd make
Yes.
me more comfortable, but I was still gonna be living with 3 roommates. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't gonna make me that comfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Immediately.
so I that's what I did personally, and I really stressed that with everybody, but, not everybody is willing to make the sacrifices, but those sacrifices that you make will come back in spades. Like, you will be so happy when you're in your 40s and you look at your retirement account, like, you're gonna be like, "That was the best thing I ever did." So, but I also think it's good to balance. Like, I think it's good you're gonna, like, move to Florida and your expenses will go up, and that's okay too. Life is a balancing act, right? There's no perfect scenario, so you wanna also enjoy the fact that you work hard. So, yeah, that's where I wouldn't be like, you're still saving a great percentage if it's pre-tax or Roth, like, that's fine. I would just make sure you're comfortable. Like, you don't wanna move to full you don't wanna move all the way there and then not be able to leave the apartment.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
So but no, I think you're in a great spot.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. I think those were my big ones were like just moving my funds or like just for retirement. Like that's been a priority over the past couple of years. And now I do want to prioritize like doing some stuff now too and moving and experiencing a new city. But yeah, I think those were my main questions around that.
Yeah, see where the expenses come in, and then you can decide on the student loans. I think you're probably gonna need to be pre-tax in the retirement at work.
Okay.
I just think rough budget-wise, I think you're gonna wanna have a little more bandwidth monthly, and that should help. And then if you don't need to, you don't need to, but I also think the point of going down there is to experience it. So you wanna have money to go walk to dinner,
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
and do things, and so I think a little more bandwidth in your budget would be nice.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
No, thank you. Yeah.
And for all of our lovely listeners, if you would like to be a guest on the show, you can write in at our Instagram, which is Future Rich Podcast, or on our website, which is www.futurerichpodcast.com. And the biggest compliment is if you like the show, it would be great if you share it with a friend. Time for our disclaimer. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance references are historical and do not guarantee future results. Make sure that you consult with your own legal, tax, and/or financial advisor before making any decisions.